How to set up boundaries in a way that protect your relationships, help them flourish, help them grow without actually hurting them.
Yeah, so we're gonna dive all into boundaries today. And then at the end, we'll give you some nice detailed examples.
All right, guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us in our car.
Yeah.
Throughout our marriage, this is the place where we have the most intimate conversations and we talk
Not
about
the most
philosophy.
intimacy.
No way, right?
The conversations.
Intimate conversations. Just
And we
clear that
wanted
up.
to invite you guys to join us with these conversations. So this will be a little less formal. We're going to talk about boundaries today.
Yes, we love talking about boundaries because it comes up all the time with clients.
Yeah, it's been coming up a lot lately.
I feel like last year too, it was very trendy on social media to talk about boundaries. And I feel like what's happening is we have this growth in the therapeutic industry of everybody's getting their therapist, they're getting self-help, and that's great. I'm all for that. But sometimes what happens is we learn either through social media or a friend or a therapist, a tool that a therapist has been well trained in through years of school, okay?
Well, you went to college, right? I mean, it wasn't veterinary psychology, was it?
And they explain it to us, and then we're just like, oh, that's amazing.
Wow.
I need to go set boundaries. And then they go and they just arbitrarily set boundaries with like everybody they know. And it's actually hurting relationships more than helping.
Yeah, because there's a little bit of complexity to it. A really good therapist and a really good coach, what they're able to do is take something complex and simplify it down so that it's easy to understand and it feels easy. But if you've ever been to the gym and like learned a new way to exercise, and then you've got your friend there being like, whoa, stop. Don't lift like that. You're going to hurt yourself.
It's gonna hurt.
That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Is how to set up boundaries in a way that protect your relationships, in a way that help them flourish, help them grow without actually hurting them and damaging them.
Yeah, so we're gonna dive all into boundaries today. And then at the end, we'll give you some nice detailed examples so that you can see how we like to coach our clients through setting a boundary. So
Exactly.
First off, boundaries are loving. Okay, a boundary, I feel like sometimes when people set a boundary, it's like they're putting up a wall, like they're getting defensive. And it's like, whoa, let's put this wall up between me and you.
Back it up.
But that's not going to help your relationship. A boundary is to keep your relationship healthy, functioning.
Yeah, one of the quotes that I hear the most from Jules actually is from Brene Brown. It's a boundary is defined as the distance at which I can love you and respect myself.
To be in a healthy relationship. I like to think too of if you're a sports fan, like think of a soccer game or a basketball game. You have boundaries around the game that keeps the game in motion. It keeps the game efficient. So boundaries are things that are going to keep your relationship in motion, keep it efficient. Sometimes a client will get confused and they'll say like, well, if he ever hits me, then I'm out. I'm leaving. That's not a boundary. That is an ultimatum.
Right.
That's like your last line of defense. That's like calling the game off. Like, I'm not even playing this team anymore. We're out.
When you try to make it about them, when you try to take over their agency and like control what they do, because it feels really good to have people do what you want them to do or what you think that they need, then it's not a boundary anymore. Anytime you're trying to manipulate, coerce, change someone else's behavior, that's not a boundary. And it's actually changes the relationship. It changes from an adult relationship to like a parent-child relationship. All of a sudden you're parenting them, you're treating them like a child, and sometimes that is appropriate, like in the case of an ultimatum, in the case of like extreme circumstances.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
But in a healthy relationship where you're trying to grow together, trying to become something new, create a marriage together, then you got to treat each other like adults.
So a really, really important part about a boundary is that it's all about you and what you are going to do. Another part of boundaries where I see people kind of mess it up a little bit, muddy it up, is they'll tell their partner, like Justin said, like what you are not allowed to do. And that's not a boundary. That's trying to manipulate and control another person, that parent-child relationship. So we're not going to do that. So what we're going to do is take the boundary at what am I going to do? First off, when you set a boundary, the way you know you need a boundary is you're feeling a lot of resentment. Emotion is information. So if you're feeling a lot of a negative emotion towards your partner or towards anyone you have a relationship with, just notice that resentment. Like, oh, this is interesting. Okay, I'm feeling kind of resentful towards this person, and unpack it for yourself.
And you don't have to make it mean anything about the relationship. You're just noticing the lights on your dashboard that say, hey, maybe something's off here. Maybe I should look into this.
Yeah. So, and then you're going to look at that and like, oh, I think I'm getting resentful because. So I want to go through like a specific example and outline how I would coach a client to set a boundary. Let's say that you have a partner who's going through a lot of stress at work and their boss has been really demanding. They're not getting along with their coworkers, and they come home with all of this heaviness and all this negativity, and they kind of unload it on you.
She holds it in so that she can like spew it out onto me. That's okay. That's God's way.
Now, there are seasons of life where that might be fine because you're like, yeah, I can handle this. I want to support my partner in this way. But there comes a point where maybe you're feeling resentful about it. That's your cue that, okay, this is too much for me right now because now I'm feeling resentful towards my spouse. That's not healthy for this relationship. We want to keep this relationship healthy, okay? So then that's where you look at that resentment and be like, okay, I don't think I can handle this right now. I need to set a boundary so that I can respect myself and love my spouse.
Yeah. So how do you do that? How do you do that in a way that builds the relationship? How do you do that in a way that's not coming to your spouse in a deep, serious conversation saying, hon, I need to set a boundary because this has been on my mind. You know how people get when they're doing this. Their eyes kind of go down. They feel it's really heavy, right? Yeah. How do you do in a way that's
You don't need to make
heavy?
It a big deal.
Yeah.
The first thing I would say is you need to coach yourself a little bit first so that it doesn't come across as an attack. And the way you do that, you notice the resentment, and then you own your part in this dynamic that you've created.
Right.
So if your partner's coming home, and let's say this is a pattern now, you've been in this for like maybe 4 months, your partner comes home and it's kind of negative, and you notice this like, oh, not again kind of feeling. Notice, oh, I'm kind of feeling resentful about my spouse being so negative, but do you know what? The first few times he came and unloaded on me, I was totally fine with it. I allowed it. I listened. So of course he wants to come talk to me because I participated in this pattern. You helped establish it.
This is what's really hard to see in a relationship. It's really easy to see in someone else. It's really easy to see in your children when you're watching them and they're doing this little tit for tat type of thing.
Well, you have bad hair.
What did you say?
And they're not owning their behaviors, but it's a little bit more difficult to look in the mirror and be like, oh my gosh,
yeah.
I created this.
You're going to come across when you start to show up differently in this pattern, you'll be less defensive and less blaming towards your spouse when you can own your part of the pattern. When you're in a relationship with somebody, it takes two people. So whatever pattern you're in, you are somehow a part of that pattern. So look at that first and clean that up. And once you've cleared that up for yourself, you ask, hey, well, what do I want to do differently? This current pattern is not working for me right now in this season of life because it's building resentment, and I want to get rid of that resentment. So that's the cue. I need a boundary.
Yeah.
Own your part in the pattern, and then just play with it. Like, okay, what could I do differently? For some people, they might want to have a conversation with their spouse.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I've noticed that work's been really stressful for you lately. And I get that it's been hard. And I hate that for you. Like, I don't like that. And I know you need to get this off your chest. But at the same time, I'm starting to feel like I'm drowning a little bit with life. And when you come and share all of those things that are hard at work with me, I just feel like it's too much for me to handle right now. I don't feel like I can support you the way I want to. So do you think you could find someone else to talk about this with? Like, I want you to get the help you want. I love you. Remember, boundaries are loving. You love this person. But it's just acknowledging your own limitation right now. Like, I can't handle this right now.
Right. So there's a lot of ways you can set up the boundary. And the important thing is that it's out of love.
Yeah.
You can.
I was just going to say, you also don't have to communicate the boundary.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can just start behaving differently and the pattern changes because now we're showing up differently.
Exactly.
So another way this could look, if you're like, that conversation wouldn't go very well with my spouse because they're very sensitive, they would get defensive because you can map your spouse, right? Then what I would suggest with that client, spouse comes home, they start unloading the negativity and you feel that like, oh no, like you notice that feeling and you switch the subject.
Yeah.
Like, oh babe, I'm so sorry that Do you know what I saw on Instagram? This was the funniest thing. And you just pull up a funny video to change the mood. And that's changing your behavior. We're not controlling your spouse, right? We're controlling us.
Exactly. So a boundary, the part that you set up, is an if-then statement about how you are going to respond. It's not about how they're going to respond.
Yes.
So the first example she gave, like giving a conversation, talking about it, saying, I really need to do this. The boundary is, if this happens again, I'm going to talk to him about it. I don't have to expect that it'll change. He might not. That just depends on what he's doing. But I do own the fact that if this happens again, the way I'm changing my behavior is I'm going to talk about it. If this happens again, the way I'm changing my behavior is I'm going to switch the topic to something more lighter.
Yeah.
Another thing could be before my spouse comes home. I notice this happens a lot. When they are going to come home and I know they're in a bad mood, maybe before they get here, I'm going to change my behavior and I'm going to get myself into a better state so I can handle it. All these things are boundaries.
Yeah. I was just going to say too, when there's a pattern or dynamic in a relationship you want to change, let's not expect your spouse to change. Okay.
Yeah.
You do the change.
They're adults. That's on them.
And
they
it's
need to
their
own
habit. You're the
Yeah.
one that's being bugged by your spouse coming home and loading, and they're finding relief in it. That's going to be a hard dynamic for them to change. So expect them to come home a few times and still share it. Don't be like, I told you. Please don't share this with me.
No. How dare you? If you speak again,
Because we're not controlling them. Instead, it's that reminder of like, oh, hey, can we just not talk about this right now? I don't think I can handle it. And if they continue, then it's like, you know, I'm going to go on a walk. I think I need to get out of here. It's what you're going to do, not your spouse. Like, you made the request. Can you please not bring this up? But you don't be like, hey, you brought this up again. You are crossing my boundary. That's not appropriate.
You can always do things to serve and to love your spouse if they're in a bad mood, right? Like for one example, my sister used to work in a dental office, and the dentist would often get in a really bad mood, red in the face, just frustrated with owning a business, all the things going on in his mind. He'd take it out on the assistants. He was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and she noticed her boundary was, okay, when he's acting like this, I'm going to go turn on some Mormon Tabernacle Choir. She noticed that kind of calmed him down. That was a way that she was serving him. He didn't have to change his behavior. He often would. But that's another way that you can protect the relationship and act out of love.
Yeah. I want to take this one level deeper. So see if you can follow me. One area I feel like in relationships,
I'm ready. I'm listening.
We start to get bugged. This could be your partner. It could be your mother-in-law. It could be your sister-in-law. It could be your neighbor. Okay. Anybody that you're in a relationship with. And you're like, oh, why does she always ask me? Doesn't she realize I have a life and I'm stressed? And can't she read into these things? It's inconsiderate of her to ask me, and you're feeling that resentment. Okay, that emotion is information, okay, that you need to change this pattern. First off, own your part in it. Like, oh, she's asking me because I keep saying yes. Oh, it makes so much sense why she's asking me, right? Because I'm the best babysitter in the world and she loves me and her kids love me. Of course she's going to ask me. Now, this is the level deeper. Sometimes we're resentful because we don't want people to push us up against our limitations. We don't like owning the fact that we have a limit. Like, I want to be able to babysit everybody's kids and feel like I can do it all.
I can do this all day, man. Yeah, I got it all day, man. I do this all day. I don't even think about it.
And the fact that I have to tell her no, I'm resentful that she put me in a situation where I have to own my limitation and say no because I don't like saying no. And that is immature. We have to own our limitations. We have to know our own capacities. And if somebody's pushing up against that and we have to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. Don't resent them for putting you in that situation.
Right.
Own the fact we are human beings. We're mortal. We're all imperfect. We have capacities in different seasons of life. There are times my spouse comes home and I'm like, yes, tell me everything that stressed you out today. I really want to know and I want to help support you through that.
We're in this together, just like we always are, you and me.
There are other days I'm just like, I am so tapped out. I'm sorry. I wish I could be that person for you, but I just can't.
Yeah, and this is a really good boundary around like sharing too much or oversharing after a hard day. Because, I mean, even in psychology, about 90% of your thoughts are on repeat day after day after day.
We're going in circles.
So after a while, your spouse is hearing it, and it does weigh them down. Like, you might need to set a boundary for yourself that you're going to share some things, but there's some things that you might not share with your spouse because your spouse isn't your therapist.
And it's so loving
Yeah.
for you in any relationship to own your own limitations and capacity. I like the word capacity too, right? We're not really limited, but we have a capacity, at which point we're like, I'm too stressed out. I can't do anything
Yeah.
else. That's up for you to own, okay?
Figure out where it is. And you figure it out by noticing what Jules said, noticing the resentment when it comes up, using it as an indicator,
Yeah.
changing your behavior, because you don't want to stick around in resentment for too long.
Oh, the anger sharks are swimming in my head.
You stick around in resentment too long, you start making stupid decisions that sabotage your relationship, right?
Yeah.
So you change your behavior and set up that boundary in a way that's positive, in a way that's rooted in love, in a way that treats you and your spouse like adults with agency.
Yeah. And I'll leave you with this thought too. If you have a harder time speaking up for yourself and setting these boundaries, right, to keep your relationship healthy, to keep your own sanity, right? We're owning all of that. Sometimes we're like, oh, it's fine. I'll just take it. And then I'll resent them later. I'll deal with the negative emotions, right?
I'm fine. Totally fine. I don't know why it's coming out all loud and squeaky.
It's not loving. Think about it if it was reversed.
Mhm.
If you had a sister-in-law who would just say yes when you asked her to babysit your kids, but then she would resent you, like, would you want that? Do you like people just going around resenting you? Wouldn't you rather them say, no, I can't do that?
Yeah.
Or please don't talk to me that way. Or please don't do this, because then I feel angry towards you and I kind of don't like you. I would much rather people be honest with me about their boundaries and their needs.
I want the truth.
Than just to say yes and then resent me. I don't want people
Right.
to resent me.
And that's part of growing up. That's part of becoming an adult and treating other people like adults, is learning that deeper style of connection and communication.
Mhm.
Just simply expressing what's going on in a way that's positive and powerful.
Yeah. And I love leaving every podcast with an action.
Yes.
Because we could sit and talk thoughts all day, but until you actually behave and do some action, you're not really changing. So I want you, as you're listening to this podcast, ask yourself, because we'll all know.
I'm telling you, you got nothing on me. You're wasting your time.
It will just pop up. Where do you feel resentment right now? Is it in your marriage or with a family member? Like, where's this deep-seated resentment coming from right now? Which relationship is that? And then ask yourself the tough questions, like, why is this resentment coming up? What pattern and dynamic in this relationship is causing this resentment? What's my part in this pattern? What can I do to change it? Now, you can't answer that in 1 minute, but sit and ask yourself those questions, ponder that, and you'll be amazed at the answers your brain comes up with of how you can change the pattern and you can start to love this person more and drop the resentment.
All right, guys, you got it. Go out there, conquer the world, make your marriage great again.
Go love.